Hello, this is Rudy Giuliani, and I'm back with Rudy's Common Sense. Today's episode is something that we've spent an awful lot of time on. And I think we've been, among a few other people, the ones who have dug it out and revealed it to the American people, and for that have paid the very heavy price of being attacked as much as possible. I think maybe, as we pointed out in the last episode, an attempt to cancel us because nobody wants you to know this, at least not the full scope of it. It connects, really, this story connects very, very much to the episode we did back last week, the first one of the week, which was entitled CCP Goal, Supplant U.S. by 2049. Because it shows you how China intends to do that. Just one way in which it intends to do it. There are many parts to it. But here they've gotten a really great head start in having elected a president that they were financing and his family and making them multimillionaires. And that episode raised the question of, well, now that Biden has become president, given the fact that he's compromised himself numerous times with the Chinese government in order for his family to rake in millions, would he be able to be an independent negotiator for us, somebody who could stand up for the best interests of the United States of America? So we look very closely at that first telephone conversation that he had, which he claimed was 2 hours. And in that conversation, it didn't seem that he raised any of the two most pressing questions that any president would have raised with Xi Jinping if he had the opportunity to do it. Any president representing the best interests of the American people, he would have, of course, raised CCP virus and said that he intended to get to the bottom of it and don't think you're going to get away with it. And don't think we're stupid enough to believe all the things that you put out. We know where that virus came from. And what we know even more definitively is that you stopped your people from traveling in China, but you sent your people all over the world for a month, maybe two, maybe three, and the lives of those millions and millions of people, Mr. Xi, you're going to have to answer for. We're going to have to get a really good answer for that. And, don't you think just because you gave my son millions and millions and put $1 billion guarantee into his private equity fund that I'm not capable of going after you? Big question, is he or isn't he? Well, he never raised it. Strike one. Never raised it. It's the most current issue. We're still going through COVID. We're still going through it. We're going through another strain. It originated in China. It originated with China's attack on the world. You want to be in denial about that? It says to me you may be in denial about everything else. And denial is an affliction that many left-wingers have had, that over history have gotten us into homicidal situations, death situations. There's absolutely no excuse for him not to raise that. No excuse. Any president, Republican, Democrat, or whatever. So many of his people have died. So many people around the world have died as a result of China's, let's be generous, negligence. Although more like deliberate action when they sent those people around the world. That an American president, if he wants to be a leader of his country, fights for his people and raises that issue. And if he wants to be a leader of the free world, he fights for the people in the free world. And if he wants to continue, Joe Biden, to be the submissive creature owned by Xi, which he was when he was vice president, and we can go back over those negotiations, I guess that sounds to Xi more like, I still own this guy. And then he failed to mention the goal of CCP, which is to supplant the United States by 2049. It's a pretty insulting goal. You're going to come after my country and supplant its position in the world, and you're going to replace it with a homicidal dictatorship? Not while I'm alive, Mr. Z. Ain't going to happen, baby. I don't know if Joe talks that come on, and he fought a good fight with Corn Pop, and he was going to always take Biden behind the schoolyard. Biden was only take Trump behind the schoolyard and beat him up. I don't know. I never put much stock in that. I don't see much of a tough guy there. Boy, to deal with China for the good of our people, you better be a tough guy. You didn't bring up their goal of 2049, Joe. You didn't say, we're going to challenge that every day I'm president. And by the time I leave this office, you're going to have to concede that you're not going to make it. That's what I'd have said to him. That's what I think any leader of who puts the interests of his own people first. But then when we looked at your executive orders, we came to the conclusion that you don't like that America First thing. We know you don't like it. Our problem is, where do you put America? I can't find a place yet. On these, you put China first. But now we find out that while you were having that conversation with him, despite your representation to us, like all your representations to us, turns out to be false. Your son is still a partner with the government of China, with the Chinese Communist government. Your son is a 10% partner in what is known as BHR Harvest, or BHT. Your press secretary had to admit that he's having trouble divesting himself. Gee, maybe he might have to lose a little money divesting himself. Wouldn't want that to happen to the multimillionaire Biden family, would we? Gosh, all your money came from your public service. Heck, we wouldn't want you to be cheated out of a few bucks by China. Might as well hang in there and create a conflict. What's the difference? You've had so many throughout your career, and the liberal press has let you get away with it. You don't think about things like this. Can you imagine that? He's supposed to be tough with China. He doesn't. He backs down. And his son is still a 10% partner with the Chinese Communist government of China. Been promising to get out of it for months. He's still there. If that had been the only relationship with China, if it had been a mistake, of course we'd understand it. And of course he'd give him a little time to get out of it. But there's a long history, and there's a disgusting history. And it's a history that was even more disgustingly covered up by the crooks in Washington. This latest one is astounding. And it bears on the national security of my country, our country. You're not dealing with England. You're not dealing with Italy. You're not dealing with France. You're dealing with a country that wants to supplant the United States by 2049. You're dealing with a country that is going through the biggest military buildup in the world. Do you get it, Joe? They're your enemy. I say it that way and I pause because I don't get to talk to him. I get to watch him. I'm not sure he gets it. But even if he did get it, he'd cave in. He caved into China all during the time he was vice president. My goodness, the islands, the tariffs, losses of jobs all throughout the Midwest. How the heck could Pennsylvania have actually voted for him, or Michigan? And he cost him so many jobs that he gave off to the Chinese. I'm not saying he did it because of all the millions he was getting. Oh my goodness, I would never make that suggestion. But I would say it should be probed as to what kind of influence that had. So this would be a time to take a short break. I accomplished a lot in 2020, exposing the truth, establishing the relationship with you, working tirelessly for America. And I came to know the work and value of the people at American Hartford Gold. You see, you buy gold not only for what you know, but you buy gold for what you don't know. American Hartford Gold is the company you can trust when it comes to buying gold. They sell physical gold and silver delivered right to your door or inside of your IRA. In the precious metals industry, they are the highest rated firm in our country with an A+ from the Better Business Bureau and thousands of satisfied clients. Give them a call and tell them Rudy sent you. And be sure to ask them what I bought. And if you call them right now, they will give you up to $1,500 of free silver on your first order. Folks, these are uncertain times. The one thing you can count on to protect what you have worked so hard for is physical gold and silver. So don't wait. Call them now. Call 833-GOLD-777. That's 833-GOLD-777. Or text Rudy to 65532. Again, that's 833-GOLD-777. Or text Rudy to 65532. Welcome back. Let's get right back to our evidence. Now, this business that he has 10% in, this thing's got a history. This is the company that they formed back when Joe was vice president and didn't know anything about Hunter's business. Oh, I forgot. The hard drives proves he was lying about that. I forgot that. But he used to say that for years. But he was lying about that too. There are a couple of things that Joe Biden isn't lying about. And one day I'll do a very short little episode on that. But it's far, far more useful in terms of content to deal with the things he lies about. So he became, 2013, I believe it was, Joe flies over to China with the son he doesn't talk about business with, and he takes him to China. It's a long trip to China, and I know they're very close. But what do you think the chances are that the kid or the son wasn't talking to the father about the big bucks he was going to make in China? He and his partners have been trying to do it for 2 years and failing. And his partners were the son of the Secretary of State, John Hines, no conflict there, and the nephew of Whitey Bulger, one of the worst organized criminals in the United States, 1 or 2 on the FBI's most wanted list. But the FBI doesn't look at Democrats, remember? Just Trump. He's in business with the nephew of the #1 guy, wanted by the FBI, and he's the son of the vice president. Nobody from the FBI goes to see Obama about that. Nobody raises it as a security issue. That this little group is going to business with China. Well, Biden's there for 2 reasons. He's supposed to back China out of the South China Sea. Why you would send Biden to back China out of the South China Sea? Obama must have done that knowing it was just a fool's errand, right? When did Biden ever win a negotiation? He screwed us in Iraq, right? He screwed us in Ukraine, got nothing accomplished, just made them more corrupt. In Iraq, he couldn't get the status of forces. I'm trying to think of when Joe ever negotiated anything with a foreign country where it took toughness to get it. Well, he didn't get it. And then he also got tariffs pushed up on him. So Joe got his head kicked in. Usual, though, he smiles when he gets his head kicked in, and because he doesn't even know it, maybe. But his son, 10 days later, gets a letter from the Bank of China. We're going to put $1 billion commitment into your private equity fund, BHT Harvest. Partners, Bank of China, Hunter Biden, John Kerry's stepson, and James Bulger, nephew, one of the major organized criminals in the United States. They're all partners. This isn't a conflict that the vice president's negotiating with China and losing, and his son becomes a partner with the Chinese Communist government. It's not mentioned. It's not disclosed to you. You didn't find that out until a book was written about it. And then they tried to suppress the book. and you didn't find out about it until I and John Solomon pointed it out. And I might say, in the wake of that, all kinds of threats, being put on surveillance logs to listen to our telephone calls. Where do we live? America? Or the old East Germany? If you put these Democrats in charge, huh? They're the guys committing the crimes. We're the people getting investigated. Seem a little strange to you? It sure seems strange to me. But all of a sudden, nice little happy family. Chinese Communist government, vice president's son, secretary of state's son, nephew of one of the biggest organized criminals. Boy, China made a nice deal there. Where's America in that? Screwed. You know the Biden administration screwed us with China. The tariffs through the roof. Their militarism expanded. And Trump had to come in to straighten it out. And he did, to a very large extent. But let's go back for a moment. Let's go back for a moment to what you learned last year in our podcast. We're just going to summarize it very, 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 very quickly. You know that this money's not just going to Hunter Biden, right? You do know that. I know all the Democrats and all the stupid media and all the crooked media and all those dopes on TV will say that there's no proof that Joe Biden ever received any of this money. Joe Biden never received any of this money. There's no proof of that. It's been debunked that he received any of this money. They have never shown you this, however. I have. I've never shown you this. What does this say? This is to his daughter. This is to his daughter. And the date is pretty recent. It's, I think, 2017. And, gosh, it's pretty clear. It says, I love all of you. That's nice. But I don't receive any respect. And that's fine, I guess. Works for you, apparently. I hope you can all do what I did. Well, what did you do? What did you do, Hunter? And pay for everything. The FBI doesn't want to know how it is that Hunter Biden, incessant crack addict, in and out of rehab all his life, never able to really do a job, getting paid for no-show jobs because of his father. And it says he paid for everything all his life? How could that be? I don't know. You don't have to be an FBI agent to figure out he was a bag man. He's collected money for the father. I did and paid for everything for this entire family. Entire family. For 30 years. Always told you this was a 30-year RICO conspiracy. He helps to prove it. This will be my first exhibit. It's really hard. It's actually why he never has any money. It's really hard. But don't worry. Unlike Pop, I won't make you give me half your salary. Hunter's salary, like in Ukraine, was $1.5 million a year to do nothing except to have his father's influence. So I guess it's only fair that he'd have to give his father $750,000 of that, right? But that's what he's saying he did. So you say, well, maybe he was just boasting. Gosh almighty, if the FBI had a thing like this on me and I was just boasting, they'd subpoena all my records. Never subpoenaed his records. Let's go look at the bank accounts of all these people. Doesn't this require it? Doesn't it require it? Doesn't it require us to find out this is true? I didn't say this. He texted it. They're covering it up. Let's go look how Joe bought the $5 million homes on a senator's salary and a teacher's salary. Let's see how he took all those fancy vacations. Let's see how much he has. And let's see how much the kid paid for. Did he pay for the tuition for all the fancy schools? I know he paid for one. What that would mean is this was the Chinese bribery plan that Peter Schlesinger outlines in his book. You pay the family off. You don't pay the public official, but the family takes care of all the expenses for the public official, so you have bribed the public official. If this is true, Joe was selling his office out for 30 years and he's now sitting in the White House. And we didn't bother to find out if it's true. Doesn't that mean there's something seriously wrong with our law enforcement? Okay, so what is this Bohai Harvest? Bohai Harvest now starts to invest money. It gets money from from China. It invests money all over the world. It invests money in China in particular. And just in case you think it's all nice little, calm little companies, a lot of these companies are companies that build ammunition, that build arms. Not for us, for China. The Sun's company is invested in a company that's giving money to companies that build arms to a nation that wants to supplant us in 2049. That's not a national security problem. Where's Brennan? Probably plotting against Trump somewhere when this is going on, or dreaming up one of his crazy anti-American schemes. This proves to you that the Obama intelligence operation was a politicized disgrace, that they weren't on top of the Biden's multi-million, multi-billion-dollar connection with China while Joe was vice president. How many others Obama did this, huh? Since we've got to drag this out like pulling teeth, at risk to our careers, maybe even our lives, I don't know. How many more of these are there? Obama, just how crooked was your administration? We're not going to find out from the American press because they cover up for you. Well, that wasn't enough for the Bidens. When they got out of office, they set up a couple more businesses. They set up a business that really is astounding. They set up a business with a Chinese communist who is expert in turning people. That was exactly, he trained others into how you get into these business relationships in order to compromise people. He sure set up a good one with the Bidens. I have all the contracts here. This is not based on no evidence. When they say there's nothing to support it, there's nothing to support it because they cover it up and they control the media. You want to look at the contracts? I can show you the contracts. I've already shown them on podcasts. I think we should take a short break right here. You never thought COVID could cost you your home, right? You're just right, because cybercrime is up 75%. And by far, the most serious cybercrime to worry about is home title theft. That's right. Cyber criminals, foreign and domestic, are now after our homes, and it's easier than you think. The title documents to our homes are online now. The thief finds your home's title and forges your signature on a quitclaim deed, stating you sold your home to him. Then he takes out loans on your home, and he leaves you in debt. You won't know until late payment or eviction notices arrive. Insurance doesn't cover you, and neither do common identity theft programs. That's why I protect my home with Home Title Lock. The instant Home Title Lock detects someone tampering with my home's title, they help shut it down. Go to HometitleLock.com and register your address to see if you're already a victim. Then use code RUDY to receive 30 free days of protection. That's code RUDY at HometitleLock.com. HometitleLock.com. Let's go through the rest of this because here the proof is so important. The American representative for the Chinese is Gong Win Dong. And the question is, what was this? Well, this was a contract in which the Chinese, Chairman Yi, was going to pay $10 million a year for the services of the Biden company. And they were going to become a partnership called Hudson something or other, Hudson West, which was going to be a subsidiary of CEFC US, which is owned by CEFC China, which is owned by a Chinese communist. So it's all funded by the Chinese communists. And for $10 million a year, they were going to help promote things. It doesn't mention what things. They're just going to promote things. It's a nice job, promote things. Maybe, who knows? Well, they can promote a lot of things. We get $10 million a year for that, $1 million up front to Joe. Just a contract here showing the money going to Joe. And then just in case you think, every once in a while they say, oh, he didn't get any money, he didn't get any money. That's because they hide their bank accounts. But we do have this, we do, luckily, we were able to get off the hard drive, a nice little payment here. On August 8th, 2017, CEFC Infrastructure Investment, that's the Chinese company, wired $5 million to the bank account for Hudson West 3. That's the Biden company. These funds may have originated on a loan, looks like a money laundering situation in back of it. It's unclear whether Hunter Biden was half owner of Hudson West at the time. Actually, he owned 20% at the time. However, starting on August 8th, the same day the $5 million was received, and continuing through September 25, 2018, Hudson West 3 sent frequent payments to Owasco, Hunter's firm. These payments were described as consulting fees, which reached $4.7 million. We're not talking pennies here, babes. We're talking bucks, big bucks, the kind of bucks that turn heads and compromise people. Now, the real question about this is, so what does it have to do with Joe? What does it have to do with Joe? It's got two things to do with Joe. There's a memo right here, which we'll show you. There's a memo right here that says that Joe is getting 10% of all of this. The big guy. Joe says the big guy gets 10%. Well, you want to know who the big guy is? Then there are 4 other texts that describe Joe as the big guy. So we don't want to hold anything back from you. So the big guy's getting 10% of this dirty Chinese communist money. And then we also have the agreement that nobody else knows about. The agreement for 50% of everything the son makes. Nice deal for the Bidens. So just 2 years ago, the President of the United States was a partner in a multi-million-dollar business with the Chinese Communist government, with duties that are extremely vague, the duties you kindly get in a corrupt contract, with also a memo here saying to please hide the fact that Joe was involved. And the FBI hasn't investigated any of this. And they say they're not investigating Joe Biden. What does he have to do to get investigated? The bribes in Ukraine were so clear when you go through the hard drive, they're disgusting. This is all on paper. How do you give this man a security clearance? Just 2 years ago, he was partners with one of the top spies and one of the top people who trains in espionage in the Chinese government. The company got at least $5 million from them, a lot more, by the way. That's the money we can put our hands on. I can't subpoena their bank records. Any legitimate law enforcement agency could. They should have done it at some time over the last 5 years. But they don't do it because Joe Biden is a Democrat and Joe Biden is allowed to break the law significantly. And Republicans are gone after for the slightest little infraction, often, as in the case of President Trump, like Russian collusion, made up. isn't going away. It isn't going away just even if when Hunter finally divests himself of that 10%. But he hasn't even done that yet. He's still holding on to the 10%. And there's nobody in that White House press corps that wants to know, well, that's interesting he gave up the 10%. But tell us about the deal. What was the deal? Did Joe get any money? Are there any records? Let's see the records. Let's see the amount of money that China gave. Shouldn't we know the amount of money our chief adversary gave our president over the last 10 years? How much? I mean, is it the kind of money that buys a man? Is it the kind of money that affects a man's judgment? Is it coincidental that Joe is submissive to them, to the Chinese? And he got millions and a commitment for billions? Aren't those questions we're entitled to ask? Not because of politics, but because of national security. We'll be back and we will continue in a very short while. If you want a good cigar, go to a good cigar shop. You want the best, go to Famous Smoke Shop. Let Famous Smoke deliver your favorite cigars right to your doorstep at America's lowest prices. Famous opened in 1939 as a small shop in New York City. Today, it's the largest privately held American-owned cigar business in the country. That's 80 years experience in the cigar business, and they're putting that experience to work for you, making deals on the cigars you love, from affordable, everyday smokes to high-end luxury cigars for your next special occasion. Go to famous-smoke.com/Rudy and click the Activate button to apply the promo code. Pick from more than 1,000 cigar brands, fresh and ready to ship from Famous Smoke's climate-controlled, 24,000 square foot humidor. Check out with the promo code RUDY20. That's Rudy, R-U-D-Y, 20, and get $20 off your order. Every cigar purchase you make is backed by the Famous Freshness Guarantee. Get real cigars from a real cigar shop, shipped direct to you from Famous Smoke Shop. Go to famous-smoke.com/Rudy. That's famous-smoke.com/Rudy. Thank you for returning. Again, I'll conclude with this. We can unite in this country. We can unite really, really strong. But we can't unite if we're covering up criminals. We can't unite if we're going to have two sets of justice, one for Democrats, one for Republicans. We can't unite if we're going to allow people to go into office with questions unanswered that suggest the possibility of massive corruption. And then we put people in office and we try to create those charges against them because they're Republicans and they turn out to be untrue. We will not unite. You unite based on what we united on originally: justice for all, equality of treatment, a set of rules that we have to obey. If there are certain rules that are so onerous or so wrong, we're going to ignore them. We ignore them for everybody. If there are certain rules that are so important they have to be enforced harshly, we enforce them harshly for everybody. Then we can have political disagreements, and they won't move over into the aspect of anger, tremendous anger, about an unfairness that wasn't supposed to happen in the United States. It's going to require the upper levels of the Democrat Party that have been corrupted for some time now to make a major change. I don't know if they can. This is not the people of the Democratic Party. I'm sure they don't even believe it. A lot of Republicans probably don't believe it. I probably wouldn't have believed it 5 years ago unless I investigated it and saw it and have the documents. But no matter how hard it is to get it done, we are fooling ourselves if we think we're going to unite. And certain people in our government can make off with millions and millions of dollars against the interests of the United States and get away with it. And then other people in our government can get hounded for crimes that are made up. And it happens to be that one side is Democrat and the other is Republican. There's a bitterness there that just saying the words of unity don't resolve. So believe me, we'll be back over the year with a lot more about this. We have a lot more. The criminality of the Biden crime family went on for 30 years. The hard drive is enormously useful and revelatory. And I don't know, they're not going to shut me up about this. They're not going to shut me up about anything. You have a right to know this. And I'm very, very concerned about the condition of my country. I'm going to do everything I can to fix it. Thank you. And let's pray to God that we can change people's minds and we can get back to a country where everyone is treated fairly. That's what God had in mind for us. And it's men who ruined it. Therefore, men can fix it. Thank you.